Hi folks, I'm Chef Wilfred Beriau, and here is the dish that I've made with the blanched and shocked Maine fresh lobster. It's with pasta, a little heavy cream, some Parmesan cheese, and some fresh spring vegetables. So let me show you how to make this. So what I'm going to present to you tonight is a pasta dish with a little lobster and some beautiful garnish, which is all pretty much garden fresh. They're regular button mushrooms. I have grape tomatoes, fresh scallions, baby spinach, a little bit of fresh garden peas, cooked shell pasta. And I use shells because I find, in my experience, the shells pick up the sauce, whereas sometimes if you use penne or macaroni or something of that nature, when you pick up a spoonful of the food, most of the sauce stays on the plate. So more often than not, when I use a creamy pasta dish, I'll mix fusilli with the shells, and maybe some other pasta that would have a nice chew and would pick up the sauce. I'm going to tighten it all up with, I have some heavy cream and Parmesan cheese. I'll start to make, it's almost like I'm going to make a soup, because I have white wine and a little bit of lemon juice here. So last but not least, at time appropriate, I will put in my picked lobster. I'm going to also add this lobster coral. It probably doesn't look very appetizing, but by the time it cooks, it will cook bright pink to bright red. So let's go to the stove and let's cook this dish. So I've already got some mushrooms cooking. They have a tremendous amount of water, and like sauté dishes, you want to make sure you get that water out because it will take away from the flavor of the entire dish. So I'm going to cook those mushrooms until they're pretty dry and firm, but not raw tasting. And I think that really adds to the dish. I had a little bit of the herbed butter left over from the boiled lobster, and with some whole butter and some of that herbed butter, I used that in my sauté dish, so it'll be very delicious. And the only thing I'm going to add besides that is perhaps a little salt and pepper. That's it. You can see they're starting to cook very nicely. I have not been stingy with the butter. The next thing that will go in is a few tomatoes. And I like to almost wilt the tomatoes. I don't want to cook them too much because I like to have a little bit of character in there. Just a little bit. Scallions, spinach, this whole dish, I have to be very, very close with the timing because this dish cooks very quickly. If I put the greens in too soon, they lose color. If I put them in too late, they're not cooked. So I'll get them started, and I'll make my soup with the white wine and the lemon juice, and then I'll add heavy cream. Then I'll add the pasta and finish my dish. You see those are just starting to cook very nicely. Add some scallions. Obviously lacking here is garlic, and I know a lot of you are probably saying that. And I think garlic is wonderful, but I have a tendency to be a little bit conservative when I cook with garlic because it just sometimes overpowers everything. And I don't think a guest should come away from a dish, especially a seafood dish, with an overwhelming taste of garlic in their mouths. So if I did put some in, I might use a quarter of a teaspoon, just enough to give it that little character. But here I've decided no garlic. I'm going to add my white wine now and start my reduction. Peas, some baby spinach, and that's getting very close. I won't add all this lobster. That's a tremendous amount of lobster. This will just be for one dish. Pinch of the coral. Drop of lemon juice. Not too much. You might have to add a little bit more white wine. The heavy cream. And about the time that comes to a boil, I'm going to have a very soupy liquid, and I'll tighten it all up with the Parmesan cheese. Now, if you can look into the pot, you can see that that little bit of coral that I've added has made the cream a little bit pink. Of course, the pigment of the lobster will do that too. I want to add the pasta before I add the Parmesan cheese. If I add the Parmesan cheese first, what will happen is the sauce won't distribute itself evenly. It'll just clump up in different places. So I like to almost make like a pasta soup and then tighten it with the Parmesan cheese. If for some reason you think you need a little bit more cream, a little bit more wine, don't hesitate to add it. Because you want this nice and saucy, you don't want it like glue. Just that much. And now I have a delicious pasta dish, very healthy, and I know there's heavy cream in it, but a little bit's not going to kill you. You can see the nice cheese in there. I like to say one whole claw and some nice juice. The trick is don't cut the lobster up so small that it's unidentifiable, and don't overcook the lobster. Thank you very much, folks, and I hope you've enjoyed this.